Good evening, everyone. Today the program is that I will start first. It won't be so long. And then after me, Rabbi Yitzchak Fanger will come. He's speaking somewhere for the ladies here in Great Neck. They will arrive here shortly. And he will also give a short speech. First time I gave my lecture, first lecture I gave was right here in this shul, 21 years ago. Right here in this room, 21 years ago. Every few years I get to come here again. No. First speech as I gave, for the audience. It was right here. And then we used to do in a room next door and sometimes upstairs. Baruch Hashem. All right, so we're in front of Parashat Ki Tavo, and I would like to start from the end to the beginning. The Haftarah of the Parasha is the sixth one from 7 different Haftarot that we read in Shabbat in a shul, that it's called Haftarot Nechama. Nechama means comfort. That after the horrible time of Tisha B'Av, the destruction of the temple, then comes 7 weeks in a row that we read parts from the Nevi'im, from the prophets, that comfort the Jewish nation after the destruction and the horrible disaster that they had in the time of the destruction of the temple. So now it's time to cheer us up by giving us the words of the prophet for the future to come, what's going to happen. You should know, in the entire Tanakh, all the prophets spoke about days of Mashiach. What will happen in the next world, nobody knows exactly besides Hashem. It's a very big mystery. We only know that all the pleasures that you can imagine, everything you can imagine of all the people, of all the generations combined, will not be equal to the pleasure of one Jewish tzaddik in the next world. 1 hour. 1 hour, if a Jew is a tzaddik, is righteous, and he dies, the 1 hour pleasure of the neshama, of the soul in the next world, is already greater than all the pleasure people ever had in this world, from the beginning of the world to the end, all the people combined for their entire life. Obviously, it pays to work hard. Nobody wants to lose it. Some Jews will have it, some Jews would lose it, unfortunately. But the entire Tanakh, all the prophets spoke about days of Mashiach, what would happen in the world. But 2 of the Nevi'im, 2 of the prophets spoke very, very clearly about what will happen in a time of Gog Magog, the final disaster war that will happen in the world. It's called Gog Magog. It's very difficult to understand what it means, Gog Magog. Gog Magog. The prophet that spoke about it clearly are Yechezkel and Zechariah. Zechariah, it starts in chapter 12 and goes all the way to chapter 14, Zechariah Yudalet. It describes what would happen when Gog will arrive to the land of Israel. It's very, very scary prophecy, what would happen in the end of days in Jerusalem. And then the Navi Yechezkel also speak about Gog Magog. They are the only 2 that mentioning it clearly by the name Gog Magog. Zechariah and Yechezkel. What's the secret of this Gog Magog? Right? How much in numeric value is Gog? Gimel is 3, Vav it's 6, Gimel it's 3, so it's 12. Magog, how much is Magog? 58. And Magog, if it's 52 plus the Vav, Umagog, Gog Magog, 58. Gog Magog, numeric value 70. This is the secret of the final war, that 70 languages, 70 nations, all the nations of the world will come to attack Jerusalem and a final war. that we call it Gog and Magog. But until these days will arrive, or maybe they already arrive, we will see soon. In the meantime, we read after Tisha B'Av, Sheva Haftarot. When exactly this war of Gog and Magog should be? In Sukkot. And there's no wonder why we read in Sukkot, in a Shabbat of Sukkot, between the first Yom Tov and the last Yom Tov, and Shmini Atzeret, the Shabbat in the middle, we read the Haftarah of Gog and Magog. Comes from Zechariah, we read it in Sukkot. Why? The only time in the Talmud that the Chachamim spoke about Gog and Magog, one place in the whole Talmud. Such an important topic. You may expect they talk about it non-stop. There's only one place. What is it? When in Masechet Sukkah. Masechet Sukkah, page Nun Bet, page 52, which is Gimatria Ben, like Ben David. The hint in the Sukkah. What does it have to do with Masechet Sukkah? Speaking about Sukkah and the Lulav and Etrog. What does it have to do with now Gog and Magog? The answer is because the Chachamim knew by Kabbalah that the time that has the highest chance to have this war is Sukkot. And especially this year when it's the end of Shnat Shemitah. Shnat Shemitah, every 7 years you have a year of strike. That the land is resting. The farmers, they don't do anything. Every time, if you check the history, every 7 years something happens in the world. The stock market crash. Somebody made a video now. Every 7 years the market crash. It shows you this year, that year. Amazing. Why? It's time of dinim, judgment in the world. And this haftarah, it starts, Kumi ori kiva orech. Get up and light yourself, because the light is coming to you. Uchvod Hashem alayich zarach. The honor of Hashem is glowing on you. Ki hinei hachoshech yichaseh eretz. The darkness is covering the land. Va'arafel leumim. What does it mean? Ki hinei hachoshech yichaseh eretz. Choshech, it's an example for trouble. Problems. There's going to be disasters in the world. The Navi calls it choshech, darkness. כי הנה חושך יחסי ארץ וערפל לאומים. ערפל, it's fog. לאומים, לאומים is nations. The fog will cover all the nations. ועלייך יזרח השם. The nations will be confused. They will be in a fog. Maybe he's talking about spiritual fog. But the Jewish nation, ועלייך יזרח השם. Hashem will glow over the Jewish nation. וכבודו עלייך ייראה. Everyone will see the honor of Hashem. והלכו גויים לאורך ומלכים לנוגה זרחך. Hashem gives this nevuah to Navi Yeshayahu, Isaiah. He gets this nevuah. It describes what will happen in the time of the Geulah, when all the nations will have problems. In Yerushalayim will be light to the world. All the Jewish nation all over the world in exile, they will start to return quickly to the land of Israel. As you can see right now, in the last year or so, all the big rabbis in Israel started to speak about returning to Israel. Rav Chaim Kanievsky, you don't have to ask anymore. You already know the answer. Every person who asks him, no matter what you have here, know what you have, what you don't have, quickly come before Rosh Hashanah. The Chachamim, based on, obviously, on Nevuot, they're beginning to urge the Jews to start making Aliyah. How long would it take? Who knows? It can take another few years. But this is now the direction. The nation themselves, after the Jews will return back to Israel, once Gog and Magog will be over, and the world will be purified, and all the wicked people will be cleaned from the world, the Goyim that will survive, that means obviously the righteous Goyim. These Goyim are tzaddikim. Not all the Goyim are wicked. Most of the Goyim, they worship idols, they do all kinds of sins, they get Hashem angry, fine. אבל among these goyim, you have Gentiles that are שומרי 7 מצוות בני נוח. They keep the 7 laws of Noach. They're not Christians, they're not Buddhists, they're not Hindus. They don't have all these cults and religions. They only follow the Torah. The Torah say, you a goy, you have to keep 7 mitzvot. You keep 7 mitzvot, you go to heaven. If Mashiach comes, nothing happened to them. They stay in the world. They don't die, they don't suffer. They survive this goyim. This kind of goyim will come to serve the Jewish nation after all the problems. When the third Bet HaMikdash will be built. They will give tons of money, donations. The goyim, they are very generous when it comes to donations. They give a lot of money. They believe in the concept of giving donation. Look at the Arabs. Al-Qaeda, when they had, after they bombed the twins and all that, when the CIA and the Americans were after them, Bin Laden were hiding, so they published, there's a drop of $30 million in the donations to Al-Qaeda this year. A drop of 30 million. Well, after all, there was $150 million a year donations that they get from people. And this is not a regular organization that you come and sit there and listen to a lecture. They give them, Hamas, tons of donations they get. The church, the Christian church, half of America they own. How the church became so rich? Donations of people. They give donation. Even me, I get more donations from Goyim than my brothers and sisters, the Jews. It's such a bushot. I have 4 Arabs donating money, make Jews religious. Arabs. And some other that they are not Christian, they righteous Goyim. I'm honored to help you bring the children of Hashem back to Him. That's how they write, the Goyim. And then sometimes you speak to a Jew, very wealthy, your friend, sitting with you on a table, eating together. You have all the symptoms that this billionaire will take up his checkbook and write a nice check. In the end, he said, Rabbi, it was very nice to see you. Like a mouse, disappeared to his Rolls Royce. That's the way the world is. Everything the opposite. The question is, how does it make sense? The answer, it makes a lot of sense. Why? Who knows? Why it makes sense? Because the Jews have a much higher Yetzer Hara, much higher evil inclination. When a non-Jew gives donation, mitzvah for him. It's not obligated. It's not one of the 7 mitzvot bnei Noach. The Goyim don't have an obligation to do chesed, to give donations. That's why they don't have Yetzer Hara against it. If it's stingy, he's stingy in everything in his life. That's his nature. But if he's not stingy, he has the urge to give. Why? He doesn't have the Satan fighting against him. It's not his obligation. Gadol ha-metzuveh ve'oseh yoter mishe'eno metzuveh. When a Jew has an obligation to give, even if he's generous in general to everything he does, clothing, vacations, when he builds himself a house, he puts on top of the line, everything very fancy. But when it comes to donation, Satan is holding him very tight. Very difficult for him to write the check. And sometimes after he finally had a moment of inspiration that he wrote the check, 2 weeks later he cries. Wow, how was I so generous? You understand? It sounds funny, but that's only because when it's your obligation, it's automatically the Satan fights against it. By women, it's not as bad. If it was up to the women to give donation, the situation was very good. They would give a lot more. 2 reasons why they don't work so hard to make it. They come home and they get the check. They go to the account and they get the money out. And the husband will cry, you know how hard I work for this money? Why are you giving it out? That's one reason. The second reason is women are not the head of the house when it comes to money. The head of the house when it comes to raising children and do other things But it's not, they don't have the obligation like a man. If a person knocks on a woman's door when her husband is not home and he wants donation, she's not allowed to give him. She can only give him a few dollars knowing that the husband won't mind. 5, 10, 20, something that the husband won't even ask. But if he wants him a big donation, she cannot give without permission from her husband. If her husband gave her permission, do whatever you want, that's a different story. But she doesn't have permission to give. Even if she's the one who makes the money. Let's say she's a big lawyer, you make $1 million a year, and her husband is a taxi driver. Makes $80,000 a year, barely pays the expenses. She makes most of the money. Someone knocks on the door, she thinks, I'm the one that makes the money, he's going to tell me who to give. She's not allowed. According to the agreement of the wedding, once you sign the ketubah, you commit to certain things, and she commit also to certain things. So therefore, a woman can say to her husband in the time of the marriage, don't give me, don't control me. I'll pay my own expenses. You don't have to give me clothing. I'll buy my own clothing. You don't have to give me, food. I'll take care of food. You don't have to pay my rent. I'll pay the rent. I'll pay all the expenses. But what I make, I keep for myself. It's not yours. Meaning you have to do a different kind of ketubah. In a regular ketubah, the husband commit to give her a place to live, food to eat, clothes to wear, and intimate relation. Those are the 4 things he commits to. Intimate relation, whether she makes the money, whether he makes the money, it's not relevant. Still he's obligated. But financial obligations, she can come and say to him, listen, I already did my calculation. If I'll sign here, if I'll agree to this agreement, you're going to take the $1 million I make, because what the wife makes goes to her husband. He controls the money. So you're going to take $1 million and you're going to give me $200,000 instead. I'll keep the $1 million, I'll give you $200,000. If she say that and he agree, that's it. It's a legitimate wedding. Usually doesn't end good. If the husband see that she keeps the money for herself, it's not exactly good for the marriage. The Chachamim made a takana. What did they say? Since the Torah obligates the man to take care of his wife's needs, to support her, to give her a place to live, to buy her clothes, to buy her jewelry in the holidays, etc. And if she will still keep the money for herself, then every husband will complain all his life. What? I'm giving her, I'm supporting, I'm buying, I'm paying, and in the end she makes money and keep it for herself. The divorce would be before the Sheva Brachot even finished. After 1 or 2 nights, hey, Rabbi, Azov, please, not for me. Chachamim already knew. So they said, don't worry, you're not doing it for free. She's going to work, she will help. Therefore, whatever she makes actually is the boss on her money. But in return, he gives her his obligations. Anyway, we'll go back to what we started. So these goyim, they will come and give gifts and tzedakah to the nation of Israel. Israel will be the light of the world. That's what we say, Israel or lagoim. If the Jews will do tshuva, all of them, then the salvation, the Geulah, will be prior to schedule. Meaning, achishena. There's 2 conditions. One, it can be on time. One, it can be prior to the time. It won't happen anymore. If it didn't happen until now, we missed the opportunity of prior to the schedule. That's gone. We're now 25 years into the actual time of Mashiach, which is the last quarter of the creation. Now in Rosh Hashanah, it will be 26 years into the last quarter of 24 quarters of the world. From the time Hashem made the world until the world will be over, 6,000 years. 6,000 years divided to 24, it's 250. 24 parts of 250 years. 23 are behind us. We are now in the last quarter, which is 250 years. But we are already 25 years into the last quarter. meaning there are 225 years left maximum for this world, maximum. Now after Rosh Hashanah, it will be the 26th year, the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Maybe that's why the rabbis are very nervous and they call the Jews to come back to Israel. Overall, I know what you're thinking. I wasn't planning to go to Israel in the next 10 days. So what would happen to me if really Mashiach would come in Sukkot and the world will go on fire? We live here in America. What will happen to us? The answer is, the rule by the Jew is that he has to live where he feels that he is the closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If a person lives comfortably here in America, no matter where he lives, New York, New Jersey, Los Angeles, he has a community, he has a rabbi, his children go to good yeshivot, he has good parnasa, he is able to give tzedakah to support good things, he has shlom bayit, his wife is happy, the size of her kitchen is like the size of this shul, so she's very happy. If you bring her now to Israel, no matter what a fancy house you buy her, the kitchen will be the size of her shower right now, the bathroom. So right away, when you take a woman from a huge kitchen, that you can play basketball 5 against 5 over there in the kitchen, and you move her to a tiny kitchen that when she opened the closet, someone's head break, because it's very crowded, right away she gets depressed. Because that's her kingdom, the kitchen. Not everyone in America, they use the kitchen. You know, in Manhattan, there's a lot of beautiful kitchens, but they've never been used because they order Chinese every night. But in a Persian community, the woman loves the kitchen. You take her to Israel, right away, she gets depressed. She gets depressed, she cannot be as religious as she was before. It disturbs her, she's sad. She can't even, pray like she used to. She's not in a good mood. It destroyed the house. That's not what Hashem wants. You may tell me, but that's her problem. Why she has to be so materialistic? Let her work on herself, be more humble, be more spiritual, and like this, when she moves into a normal house in Israel, she won't be depressed. She'll be very happy that she lives in a holy land. It's true, but until it will happen, it didn't happen yet. Until it will happen where a person has to be. A place that his wife will be happily religious and his children, or a place that they will become depressed and chas v'shalom go off the derech. The answer is clear. So every Jew that wants to make a decision to move from where he is to a different country, not necessarily to Israel, to any place, the first thing he has to find out, what are the risks? If right now where he lives, he has a place of learning Torah, he has a good shul, he has a good rabbi, he has someone that he sits and learns with, his children are in good yeshivot and they're happy, he has shlom bayit, he has parnasa, he's happy from his neighborhood, basically he has everything working. He doesn't have permission to jeopardize it and to go gamble to move to a different country, just because maybe they offer him 10% more on his salary or whatever the case is. Doesn't have permission. It's not fair to risk the future of your children. You move them to a different state or to a different country, different language, different mentality. Schools don't accept them so easy. In Israel, it's very difficult to get accepted to schools, especially if you're Sephardi. It's 10 times harder. But believe it or not, even Ashkenazim has problems to get into some yeshivot. For instance, some yeshivot won't accept you if you're a businessman, no matter how rich you are. Even if you're a real religious person, even you dress black and white, but you have a store, you have a business, you're an accountant, whatever you are, they won't accept you. Why? They want only children that come from a house that the father sits and learns Torah all day. Any other religious people, they don't want. You're dying to put your kid into this good yeshiva, they don't want you. The other parents make threats. If you accept this kid, we'll take our children out of here. We didn't bring our children to this yeshiva that everyone who works and doesn't learn Torah, his children will sit next to my children. We raise our children in a very high standard. We don't want the same thing. So here is an example of difficulty that you want to put your kid in a yeshiva in your area, and they can tell you right to your face, no. As a matter of fact, right now the school started in Israel. There's 22 Sephardi girls, ultra-religious, all of them, that cannot get accepted to school. They don't accept them. They don't want. The government forced them, the government threatened them to give them penalty and to close the yeshiva. They already gave up. They wanted to surrender. They don't want to lose the yeshiva. The parents say, you accept them, we all leave the school. They don't know what to do. In the meantime, these nice girls sitting home, their only crime mainly is their last name, unfortunately. They don't accept them because of this kind of poor decisions. It got to a point that one father a few days ago in Israel, when they told him that his daughter did not get accepted, he killed himself. Took a gun and killed himself. Now all of a sudden everyone is waking up. When I scream about it for 2-3 years, why are you talking about things like this? Better not to talk. We know the problem exists. Well, why talking about it? If you don't talk about the problem, how is it ever going to change? These children will continue to suffer again and again and again. Every year it will never end. What happened when he found out his daughter, which is so religious, such a nice religious family, they don't accept her, he killed himself. He couldn't take the pain anymore. The embarrassment to see his daughter crying every day at home, he just couldn't take it. Some people are extra sensitive. There's a limit to how much they can take. Then something mentally affecting them, and chas v'shalom, they can commit suicide. And that's a very sad end to this situation. We're going back to what we said. So that we had an opportunity for the last 2,000 years for Achishena, it didn't happen. Now we are Be'ita. We are now in the right time. Let's see what else the prophet has to say. Se'i saviv enaich. Look around with your eyes. Uri, and see. Kulam nikbetzu ba'ulach. Everyone is gathering back to Israel. Banaich merachok yavou. Your children are coming from far away. Jews from China, Jews from Japan, Jews from Africa. Uvnotaich al tzad te'amena. And the daughters would come and become princesses. That's how they're going to be in Israel in those glory days. Az tir'i v'nahart. Then you're going to see, and your face will be happy. Ufachad v'rachav levavech. Your heart will expand. You know, when a person gets a good rumor, he feels like his heart is getting full of happiness. Ki ya'afech alayich hamon yam. So much wealth will come to you from the other side of the ocean. Where is the ocean? In the west, in Israel. Ma'arav. So lots of wealth will come from the other side of the west. Chel goim yavou lach, shifat gemalim. Camels loaded with wealth will come. Today, what camels? Today you have cars, you don't need camels. Techasech bichre midyan ve'efa kulam mishva yavou. Tons of things. Za'av, ulvona, isau, teilot Hashem yevaseru. The goyim that will bring all this wealth to Israel, they will be singing and praising Hashem. Why the goyim will be so impressed from Hashem? What's the big deal here? First, that they survived. They saw what happened in the world. Hashem didn't take us with all the other billions. The prophet Zechariah writes that 2/3 of the people in the world will be wiped out in 12 minutes. There's different opinion, 9 minutes, 12 minutes. Some say altogether up to 20 minutes it will take. One way or the other, it's a matter of minutes. Obviously, we're talking about a nuclear situation here. How you can wipe out 2/3 of the world, 5 billion people in 12 minutes. Obviously, we're not talking about conventional weapon here. And this was written in a generation that they didn't even have guns. Only bow and arrow, spears, things like this. That's how they used to fight. How you can destroy the whole world in 12 minutes? You cannot shoot one bow and arrow maybe in 12 minutes until you prepare it. It's not so simple. So he continued, they will all bring Bet Mizbechi uvet Tifarti to the place of the sacrifices, which is Bet HaMikdash, and my temple, my glory temple. So obviously we're going to see we don't have to worry anymore about funds. Rabbi, how are we going to fund Bet HaMikdash? We need lots of gold. We need lots of money. Don't worry. Maybe Bill Gates from his fund, together with Warren Buffett, will pay all the expenses. Rabbi, it's Bill and what's his wife's name? Linda? Bill and Linda here. We survive, thank God. We want to pay the expenses to your holy temple. How much? Bill, it's $5 billion before we even started. No problem, 10 billion is on the way. We have some money left. Why? The Goyim, even the Goyim will not have any more Yetzer Hara. Hashem will destroy the Yetzer Hara of the world. So everyone will think clearly. So he continued to say like this, they will all bring to the glory house of Hashem. Mi ele ka'av ta'ufena uchayonim el arubotehem. The Jews and the Goyim will come to Israel like birds flying like the clouds in the sky. He's hinting to airplanes. What do you mean like birds? It's very interesting. Kilim yekavu v'oniyot, and boats. La'avi banaich merachok, to bring your children from far away. Kaspam u'ze'ava mitam, their money and wealth is coming with them. Why? Likdosh Israel kipeirach. So why? To come into the holy place of Hashem. Uvanu bnei nechar chomotaich. The Goyim will build everything for us. We don't have to worry. Umalkehem yeshartunech. Their kings will serve the Jewish nation. Don't make mistake here. This is the happy end. Before all these wonderful days will come, there will be horrible time. The prophet Zechariah starts, Zechariah 14, it starts describing the attack on Yerushalayim, that the Arabs and the Christians will make peace and will come to attack Yerushalayim. In the beginning, it will be a disaster. Then when Hashem will interfere with the war, after that, it will take revenge against all the anti-Semite Goyim and wipe them out. And the prophet described a nuclear war, that their eyes are melting and spilling out, and their hands are falling off, and one tried to grab the hands of his friend, and the hand came out, and they are drowning. It will be a disaster. It will be a massive earthquake. All of this before. After all the problems finished, the world is finished, how long will it take to bury all the enemies of God and the nation of Israel that attacked Israel? How many years it will take? 7 years the Jews will be busy only burying bodies of the Goyim that came to kill the Jews in Israel. This is one of the wonders how the Jews would want to bury all these filthy anti-Semite murderers. Just burn them and get rid of them. Why do you have to waste time now, dig graves for them? And that will be the Jewish nation as a sign of their kindness, as they always been. Gomle chasadim. Why? Because in the Torah it says, when a person dies, he has to return into the dust. You came from the dust, you must return to the dust. Min ha'afar bata ve'el ha'afar tashuv. You came from the sand, you must return into the sand. Therefore, when they criminate bodies and they burn it and they put it in a jar, ashes and all this nonsense, or they bury people in freezers, or they throw them to the ocean that the fish will eat them, all kinds of things. Sometimes the reason they do it is because of ignorance. They don't know that it's important for the soul that the body returns back to the grave. They don't know. Sometimes they do know. The rabbi told them that. But the reason that they don't do it is because they're stingy. They don't want to spend $10,000, $15,000 on their father to buy him a grave, to take the body to Israel, or even here in America, to pay Chevrat Kadisha. They don't want. So to burn it, it's very, very easy. That's why today, by the way, they made graves in levels, husband and wife in the same grave. The first one that died, they bury down in a lower level. And then the second one, they put some sand, they make a separation, and the husband or the wife, depending who dies second, on top. You understand? And they save 50% of the cost instead of buying 2 graves. That's how they do it today. So one time I went to a place, and the guys keep telling me, my father, and he keeps pointing to the wall. My father, my father. I'm looking at the wall, I'm looking for a picture of his father. I don't see any picture. But he keeps saying, my father, my father. Then I saw a shelf. I said to him, why you keep saying my father? What's over here? He said, here, my father. He took a jar. Here. Ashes inside. That's my father right here. Hashem, you must bury it. As long as they don't bury even the ashes, the soul doesn't have rest. The soul must have rest, and the way the soul have rest is when the body returns to the ground. By the way, you should know that a part of the soul stay in the grave forever. That's why some Jews go to the graves of the righteous people to pray there. They're not, God forbid, praying to the rabbi there. They're praying that the merit of this tzaddik will help them for Hashem to accept their prayers. If somebody prayed to the person that buries there, he becomes immediately an idol worshiper. You have to be very careful. You cannot pray to a human being. You can pray that the zchut, the merit of the tzaddik that is buried here, will help that Hashem will accept my prayers faster. The Navi continue. תמיד יומם ולילה לא יסגרו להביא אליי חיל. The wealth flowing to Israel day and night non-stop. One airplane after the other. Boats are arriving. All the wealth of the world will come to Israel. As a matter of fact, as we speak right now, Israel became the most expensive country in the world to live in. The houses in Israel rise by 100% in the last 4 years. 1 million went to 2 million. 5 million went to 10 million. And are constantly going up every month. Every month there's a raise in the rent, raise in the value of the real estate. Why? It's a small land. It's very desired by a lot of people. And soon when they begin to see the arrival of the Mashiach, obviously everyone would want to have a land there. The price of a little tiny apartment in Israel can go to $50 million. Tiny apartment that doesn't worth $200,000. Everybody will want to buy property there. The goyim, everyone will all want to come. The good news is that people will have unlimited amount of money. Because the Rambam writes in Ilchot Melachim, in the end of his Chibur, the Rambam writes, Ma'adanim metzuim ke'afar. Wealth is like sand on the ground. Logically, if you think about it, if 5 billion people die, and they leave all their bank accounts, all the real estate, whatever is left from the war, who is going to take it? Property of 5 billion people will fall to the hand of 2.5 billion that survive. So obviously, it's going to be a lot of wealth. That's trying to understand it logically. Then the Navi continue. It says like this, Bnei me'anaich, those who tortured you, V'ishtachavu al kapot raglaich, those who tortured you will bow down to your feet. Kol mena'atzaich, those who cursed you, all this used to curse the Jews and hate them. V'kar'u lach ir Hashem Tzion, they will announce you, the Jews, the owner of Zion, the city, the holy city of God. They'll change their speech. תחת היותך עזובה ושנואה ואין עובר ושמתיך לגאון עולם מסוף דור ודור. Translation, you used to be neglected and hated. Nobody wants anything to do with you. And now in days of salvation, I put you to be the sunshine of the world. Ve'anak chalev goyim, you're going to receive the wealth of all the goyim. Ushod melachim tinaki ve'adat ki ani Hashem. You will rise to a level of kings. Every Jew that will be left in Israel would live like the Iranian Shah. $40 billion, faucet from pure gold, every watch $200,000. Everything you want you have, unlimited, no value. Saddam Hussein, 40 billion. Iranian Shah, 40 billion. Gaddafi, 200 billion. Mubarak, 70 billion. Arafat, only $400 million. That's what they say. Maybe he was more clever hiding it. All kings loaded with money. Imagine every Jew will have unlimited. Unlimited. The only problem is that we're not going to have greed for money anymore. Right now, a person that is greedy and he wants to become wealthy and more and more and more, the more he makes, the hungrier he gets. He's very happy with his success. Look at Donald Trump. How many times a day he brag about his wealth? I'm successful, I know, I own. You drive in West Side Highway, you see all these Trump place, every building $1 billion there, by the water. I'm sure every day when he opens up his eyes, he looks at this kingdom. Donald, you made it. Soon he's going to be the president of the United States, maybe, if he'll know how to talk a little bit more careful. ולא יישמע עוד חמאס בארצך. You won't hear the word Hamas anymore in your land. It's very interesting that the Arabs, from all the names that they could have named themselves, which name they found? Hamas. That all the prophet says, when Mashiach comes, there will be no more Hamas. But the Arabs didn't know it. They're not exactly expert in Tanakh, these terrorists. But they call themselves in the name Hamas. What Hamas means in Hebrew? Huh? Stealing. Thieves. Hamas named themselves thieves. Why? They come to steal our land. Do you know how the thieves are? Some thieves, they steal from you. They know that what they have is yours. But some thieves, a minute later, convince themselves that it's actually mine. I only took what's mine. When does it usually happen? In partnerships, in business. Moshe, why are you stealing from your partner? I don't steal. He stole from me. I'm only taking what's mine. You understand? No, there will be no more Hamas in your land. וקראת ישועה חומותייך ושערייך תהילה. ולא יהיה לך עוד השמש לאור יומם ולנוגה הירח לא יאיר לך. והיה לך השם. The light will not be the light of the sun and the moon anymore. Do you remember when Hashem created the world? There's a question that the atheists like to ask. They say, if Hashem made the sun on the fourth day, what happened between the first day until the fourth day? There was a period of 3 days, 3 full days, that there was no sun yet. How come there was light? ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום אחד. ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום שני. How? The answer is, in the beginning Hashem made a special spiritual light. Like Röntgen. It goes through items, it goes through walls. Very special, very high spiritual light. It's called Or Aganuz, the hidden light. Why the name of it is the hidden light? Because the Midrash is teaching us that after Hashem saw how wonderful is this light, He took it away and decided to give it to the righteous people for the future to come. So it's such an amazing spiritual light. I will reserve it only for the righteous people. Not everyone will enjoy from this light. Once he took out that light, he put the light of the sun instead. The sun is more than 1,000 times bigger than Earth. More than 1,000 times bigger. Nobody understands how for so many thousands of years, the Goyim, they fooling us by telling that the world is millions of years old or billions of years old. But even 5,000 years old, even 5,000, 6,000 years old, nobody understands how such a huge ball of gas, such an amount of fire, constantly is giving energy to the world non-stop. Nobody understands. You know everything. You want to make a torch, you need to burn something. The sun doesn't burn anything. It doesn't have wood. It doesn't have papers. Fire needs to hold to something. The temperature in the middle of the sun, the center of the sun, is 15 million degrees Celsius, which is more than 20 million degrees of here. We have today 80 degrees, you cannot breathe, it's so hot with the humidity. 100 degrees, forget about it. 100 degrees, a person cannot function. Imagine 20 million degrees, the heat of the sun. That's in the center of the sun, right in the middle. If you travel from the center of the sun to the end, the sun has a shell, just like an orange. Orange has a shell. The shell is orange on the outside, is white in the inside. The white side of the shell, the temperature of the sun over there is 2 million degrees Celsius. From 15 million, it went down to 2 million. 7.5 times reduction. From the other side of the shell, where the orange is, or the green, the temperature dropped to 6,000 degrees. And from there, all the way to Earth, it's reduced to 30 degrees Celsius, about 80, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how it's calculated in relation to the Earth. Yesterday I spoke to an atheist in Manhattan, one-on-one. I spoke to him. From all the proofs I gave him, this proof knocked him out. But I told him, let me ask you a question. If I take you now in the middle of the ocean, and I take a quarter out of my pocket, in the middle of the huge ocean, and I throw it somewhere in the water, goes all the way to the bottom, and I say to you, my friend, here is a bag with 1,000 quarters. The deal is like this. You have to throw the quarters. If your quarter land on mine in the bottom of the ocean, you get $1 billion. Would you even try? He told me, probably not. I said, there's any chance to succeed? He said, no. I said, now the world is 72% water, and it's a very tiny world. If you look, you stand by the ocean, it looks endless. Endless. Wow, so much water. So I say, to get a quarter in such a big ocean, the chance is 1 to 100 trillion, and that doesn't even exist. So I said to him, do you know that the universe, it's endless. Much, much, much wider than the ocean. Every star in the universe is 500 or 1,000 times bigger than Earth. And the Earth only has 3/4 water. It's not even the full Earth. 3/4 of the world is water. And we are one of the smallest stars. Just the amount of stars in the universe, if you combine them all together, there may be 1 billion, trillion times bigger than Earth. Besides space, all the space which is endless, you can go millions of years of light, you can travel in a spaceship and you don't get to the end, there's no end. It's endless. I said, do you know that the only place that this tiny little ball, our ball, imagine, the tiny ball the size of a quarter compared to the ocean, the only place it could have been placed is where it is. Every other place in the endless universe You either burn in a second or you freeze in a second. Life is impossible. The only place where life is possible is where Earth is. The distance from the sun, from the moon. That's the only place it could have been. If you look at the Milky Way, I told you, we have 9 stars in the shape of a banana. It looks like a banana. One of the stars was moved to the right. It's like a hand picked it up and moved it. Which star? Our world. If our world would be where it was supposed to be, you get burned in a second. You couldn't leave. So the only place, there's endless possibilities, endless, trillions and trillions and trillions of possibilities. Only one of them is kosher. All other possibilities are not kosher. Which one came in a roulette? The one that you need. What's the odds? He told me no odds. I said to him, now you still think that the world was made by himself or its development of millions of years? I said, it's silly to claim such thing. All of a sudden, in a minute, he realized, they keep talking and talking. Something developed by itself. So here you go. This is an example of the brilliance, how it is. So Hashem says, I took that light. I hid it for the future to come. I replaced it with the light of the sun. But the future to come, I will return this light to the righteous people. When? Right here. So now try to imagine the world. You have third Bet HaMikdash. You have all the righteous people came back to life. If we will be righteous, we will walk in Yerushalayim. You walk, good morning David ben Ishai. Good morning Moshe ben Amram. Good morning Akiva ben Yosef. Good morning Rav Ovadia. Good morning Rav Ben Zion. Good morning Rav Eliashib. Good morning. All the big tzaddikim. Thousands of thousands. All the tzaddikim. Oh, who are you? The Ari Kadosh. Nice to meet you. Give me bracha. You don't need bracha anymore. You survived. Rabbi Yosef Kar, you wrote the Shulchan Aruch. Tell me how it was. When I was a kid, I read about your life. Rambam, wow, Rambam, Ramchal. Think about the life. Millions of tzaddikim from all the generations, everywhere you go. And if we survive, we will live in these days. And there's no more sun, no more sweating, no more humidity, none of these things. No more traffic, no more wars, no more stock market up, stock market down, no more. Life will be ideal. Life will be better than the people that right now are in heaven, in this world. We'll go back to the level of Adam before the sin. The evil inclination is not in the body. Nobody has to walk like the curse of Adam Arishon. Bezeat apecha tochal lechem. Women don't have to give birth anymore and scream in a hospital, epidural please. No more. There are so many thousands of things that we are suffering from that will not be anymore if we will survive. Just imagine you come to get on a plane and you don't need to take your shoes off, or you take your laptop out. Just that, for that it's worth it. You come, take your shoes off. One time they lost one of my shoes. Imagine I'm on my way to Texas, Arizona, somewhere, in a machine. One shoe came out. I said, what am I going to do now? Walk in the airport with one shoe? I got stuck somewhere in their machine over there. Imagine the pressure. What are you going to do now? Just you have to walk without shoes in the airport. Big embarrassment with a yarmulke without shoes. Baruch Hashem. We're about to finish. So the end of this nevuah of the prophet is like this. It says, Yemei Evlech is over. The days of mourning is over. You don't have to cry anymore for the destruction of the temple. You have a new temple. The light is the spiritual Or HaGanuz. I ask, it's finished like this. Ani Hashem be'ita achishena. I am Hashem. I gave you two possibilities, on the right time and prior to schedule. Before we finish, I'll ask you one question. The light of the sun right now that we have, What is it? Is it spiritual or it's physical? What do you think? What do you think? It's spiritual or it's physical? I tell you why I'm asking, because everybody knows that the light has speed. Speed of light, 300,000 kilometers per second. Something that has a speed, usually it's physical, right? You can measure the speed. On the other hand, there is a very interesting phenomenon. If you take a black wall, white wall resists the sun less than a black wall. Clear resists less than a white wall. So the lighter you are, the less you oppose the sun. So if you take a very black wall, it blocks the light of the sun. But the sun doesn't give up. The light of the sun penetrates through the wall and comes from the other side. Not fully, partially. Some was absorbed in the wall and some went from the other side. So you see light, less light, but you see light on the other side of the wall. The question is, what happened to the light once it goes to the other side of the wall? What happened to the light? The speed of light was stopped, it was reduced. Once it hit the wall, it was reduced. It's not 300,000 kilometers per second, because it hit an obstacle. Once it went to the other side, imagine a ball. I take a ball now, I throw it. Someone put his hand and stopped my ball, and his hand went back, and the ball is falling on the floor, another 5-6 feet, and it stops. It continues a little bit, but in a much lower speed. So when the light was stopped by the wall, the light continues a little bit, but the light doesn't stop. The light accelerates back to 300,000 kilometers per second. Not one more, not one less. Without energy. Nothing is pushing the light. By itself. Mamash, the hand of God. It's against the law of nature. The law of nature, in order for something to move, you need energy. Energy makes movement. No energy, no movement. Nothing is pushing. How do you move by yourself? And how do you know exactly to accelerate to 300,000 kilometers per second? Who told that light to behave like this? The answer, the light is half enough. Half spiritual, half physical. But the light that Hashem made the world with is 100% spiritual. I would like to finish, but before I finish, I would like to tell you why this